All right, give it a beat. YouTube says we are live, so I'm going to say we're live. Well, welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom number 260. I'm your host, Greg Gab. The gang's all here with John and Don and Mike and Jim and Wayne and Garth and other people, and more will continue to show up because that's what happens. Let's talk slot cars. If you have something to show and tell, raise your virtual hand or wave your hands in front of the screen like this, and I'll try not to miss you. I have a quick one that I will go ahead and do. Let me get my thing ready and then share, and share. All right, so you should be seeing a whole bunch of stuff. This was a big order I placed with Alan. A bunch of borders for the Polo Car track I bought a while ago because I'm not going to put together a track where I don't want borders pretty much everywhere, so bags and bags of borders. Some parts to put together random cars because I almost never have spherical bushings to go in slotted pods or crown gears or whatever. And then these 4 cars. These are the vintage, aka 70s, 80s NASCAR from Scalextric. So we've got the Monte Carlo and the Thunderbird and the Chevy. And I'm going to turn this into an IROC set because this is a class that I basically brought to the nomination process of our analog club several times over the last couple of years. Basically, maybe a year or two after they first came out. Nobody wants to race them because they're not NSRs or Thunder slots or Slottits or Revo slots or whatever. They're not performance cars, so they don't get a whole lot of love. So instead of trying to make it a series, I'm going to turn these into an IROC set and then let whoever wants to run these for IROC at their race night use them for IROC at their race night. So we'll race these, and I know at least one guy who will be happy to put these on his track for IROC, if not more than one guy. So
well, Greg, they should be pretty evenly matched with each other, no?
I certainly hope so. They're all the same motor and same gearing and same configuration and whatnot, but I haven't done any side-to-side comparisons because I've only had one. I've only had a Monte Carlo, the light blue and yellow one that came in a set that I bought separately from the set.
Oh, okay. Can I ask you another question? Like, be honest, number 22, really, you're not giving to anybody. Come on, that's yours, man. Yellow and blue?
I got, like I said, I got the lighter yellow and blue one a long time ago. But these are IROC cars. Like I'm not gonna just give this set to somebody for keeps.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
It's gonna be brought to their track and raced on their track. And if at some point enough people say, yeah, those are fun, and it gets nominated for a series or voted in for a series, then I'll probably go ahead and sell whoever wants to buy these because I'll have to prepare them all for racing, which includes trimming the chassis for float, trimming the body posts on the chassis for float, gluing and truing the tires and treating the tires for a little bit better grip, putting some weight in to get them to perform a little bit more consistently. Just a variety of things that I already did to my one car. And I when we had lower turnout numbers for our race nights, I was bringing that as a potential King of the Hill car, and it got raced a couple of times for King of the Hill. But we've pretty much removed King of the Hill because we've been having more than 10 racers every night, which means King of the Hill just adds too many races to the race night to be going home at a reasonable hour, especially for me.
I got to tell you, I think it's a great idea to show that you don't have to go really fast to have fun.
And the guys know that, generally speaking, and some of them are on board, but usually when they have a choice between these or a car that they like better, which is practically any other brand, other than maybe Carrera or SCX, then the other car tends to win in those votes. So I figured if I'm ever going to get these cars to race side by side, I'm going to have to go ahead and just bite the bullet and do it myself. So I am. And that'll happen at some point.
Well, good on you then. That's awesome. I think it's great.
Probably not in the next week or two, but in the next month or two. I also have the print that I talked about last week that finished after the live chat, which was the Polycar R6 radius turn. This is a picture of that. I connected to the lane changer that I happen to have easy access to. I don't have the rail kit yet, so obviously, as you can see, there's no rails in there. I tried to do something on my printer to give the track surface a texture, which you can kind of see in here, but it's not as textury as it looks to be. So I can adjust the spacing of things and maybe give it an actual roughness to it, but right now it feels smooth, so it's not going to provide the same traction properties as the Polycar track. There's no way that you can do the same traction, the same track surface as the Polycar track with filament 3D printing, because it's basically just tons and tons of little spikes, which is practically impossible to do with a filament printer, at least nicely or consistently. This is a surface pattern called Hilbert curve. Those are actually continuous lines. Like if you follow the line around, it is continuous.
So I don't know if you're familiar with a particular curve at Rouen in France, but they had like stones in the turn, and that's exactly what it looks like.
That's cool. My hope is that with a little bit sparser, a little bit wider spacing, then there will be enough space between the raised points that it will actually provide some kind of texture and enhance the traction a little bit on the printed version. But that's pretty much it.
Hold on, may I suggest something?
Yeah.
Well, with the spaces that you have in that print, if you had, you're going to think I'm crazy, but clumping kitty litter and put glue on it, you could probably get a texture out of it.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to do post-processing like that, then I would simply spray paint the whole thing with, one of those textured paints.
Oh, that's a better solution for sure. Yeah. Well, then see, I'm sorry. I have a cat that I think kitty litter right away. Sorry.
The painting with texture paint doesn't work very well. I've tried it.
On
the Scalextric track.
Scalextric is made of polypropylene,
yeah,
which is flexible, and things don't like to stick to that because it flexes and cracks.
I didn't have any problems with it sticking. I had problems with it not working as far as the amount of grip that it gets.
Okay, so the paint stayed on but didn't improve.
Yeah, the paint stayed on. There was no problem with that at all. But you get the tires on it, and the tires would just slide right out. So it was interesting. It seemed like it would be a good idea, but it didn't, in practice, appear to work.
I mean, I know something that people have done on tracks a long time ago, especially routed tracks before tire technology improved, was Sandtex paint, which was basically paint with sand in it.
Yeah.
That they would use, and of course they love the heck out of that. But these days with high quality tires or high grip softness tires that work well on Scalextric Sport without any paint, it's going to take a lot to improve on that. Like, for example, we're running the Thunder slots right now, and the night before last we raced on the one and only Polycar track in the group, and the traction was actually a little bit lower on the Polycar track than what we're accustomed to with those cars on the Scalextric Sport or the painted wood tracks. Mm. Good. I'm not saying it's bad traction. It was actually good traction. It's very consistent. Like, from the first race to the last race, the traction pretty much didn't change, but it was not as good as freshly clean tire traction on Sport or wood.
What would happen if you used a texture plate, Greg? If you flipped it over, would it just not print very well?
You think way too highly of the textured plate, Garth.
I had a question for you, Greg.
Yeah.
The rail kit that you're waiting for the Polycar track, is that very generic, or do you have to get it specific for each track
It's
curvature
generic.
piece? Okay.
It's yeah. So if you hadn't heard at all about the rail kit, it's basically a spring, right? So you get a bunch of spring, and then you get the bits that go in the ends. So each kit will come
Oh, gotcha.
with
Wow.
4 pin ends and 4 socket ends, and enough spring to be the rails. And then you basically cut the spring to length and stick them in. And,
Gotcha. That's
you know,
cool. All right, I haven't seen it, so thanks.
I look forward to trying it, but nobody in the States has the kit stocked yet, as far as I know.
Have you actually tried a tire on that surface, Greg, before
I have
it's
not yet. I'm not
finished?
saying it's bad traction. In fact, I would expect it to be as good as those tires on Sport or Carrera, right? Because it's smooth, so a high grip tire is going to have okay traction on it. It's just going to be different traction than Polycar, right? Generally speaking, you don't want to have completely different traction profiles on the same track
Yeah.
because then you can't do your tires however they need to be done for that track. You have to do tires that work good on both, which might be, might actually not be a big deal. But until I get the rail kit, I can't put it into a layout and actually try it anyways. So
Looks like it's going to be pretty cool, Greg.
as far as functionality when I get the rail kit, yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And
So
this whole project,
I probably won't reprint it until I get the rail kit and at least try this and see if there is any real concern about the level of traction.
Sorry to interrupt, but there are lots of racetracks that have different types of surfaces that are part of the character of the track.
For example,
Well, here, if I can share, I found that picture of the stone cobbling at Rouen that I can show you if you like.
you're
Sorry,
talking about real racetracks, not
real racetracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, real racetracks. Oh yeah,
real racetracks.
yeah. So here you can see here. This is like the cobblestone sort of pattern that your printer
Okay.
came up with. If you look underneath here,
Okay, how many years ago was that?
1962.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
That track-
What? Sorry. I must interject. The IndyCar track in Toronto has 3 types of surfaces.
Okay. I'm guessing the surfaces provide more grip in the turns.
No, well, it depends. So you have concrete, which is at turn 2. You have asphalt, and then what the hell's the third? I think it's just I think it's just 2: concrete and asphalt. So it really does make gives the track a unique sort of character, if you will.
Especially if
I'm
it
just
rains.
saying that it's not a negative. I think you could turn this into quite the positive.
I'm not going to try to turn it into a positive, and I'm not necessarily saying that it's a negative until I can actually run a car on it and see what the deal is. And yes, Garth, eventually I will try printing it on a textured plate if that provides any enhancement. And I will also try my idea of doing that same exact method, except with a sparser spacing on that pattern so that there are, measurable,
Yes.
feelable divots between the lines. But
and the catalyst for this project is centered around the unavailability of the R6.
This project is centered around the fact that Slotted is not going to produce an R6. The only way to get an R6 is by printing it. So I'm basically proving I'm serving as a proof of concept for them sharing those files. Similarly, they don't currently plan to manufacture the pit lane entrance and exit pieces, the 1 lane to 2 pieces, because there's just not enough demand. They don't think they can recoup the cost of the tooling for that. So they're planning on producing, letting people print those files, and then you get the rail kit and their lane change electronics, and you put it in there and make your own. I will have some feedback for them on various aspects of the whole process to improve things. But yeah, right now it's still very much a maybe.
Are they thinking they're going to put those out somewhere online for people, or just sell
You
them?
can actually
Or
already
what?
go download. There's one thread on Slotform. I forget the specific name of them, but I'm pretty sure he shared
Okay.
some file. I think it might have been. It might have been the R6.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the plan. Eventually, they're going to have the files available on their website for download, and then anybody can print them if you got a printer big enough.
My next question would be, well, since they're providing the file, they don't include in the design the surface characteristics.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. In that, there's no way, in my opinion, there's no way for a filament printer to provide this kind of surface. They can model that, right? In order for them to do the tooling for the injection molded ones, that's modeled, right? If the CAD is done for those little spikes, and then the tooling maker makes the little divots in the tool for those spikes to exist. So it's not that he couldn't provide that as a file for printing, but in my opinion, the optimum way to print these files is face down, top down on the printer surface, because otherwise you have to provide all kinds of support material underneath, which is then a pain to remove and is, costs material and, a variety of reasons that I don't like doing it that way. But you certainly can flip it so the top is facing up, and the dye added texture would probably actually work a little bit better as a top side pattern, and I might end up trying that if my other things don't work out. But like I said, you'd have to basically the entire underneath surface would have to have scaffolding, printed supports to support that top surface, which is only a millimeter thick overall. And it's got the little ribs and whatnot in various places, but those are basically designed for injection molding, right? In fact, if this were designed specifically with filament 3D printing from the start, it would not be the same design. It would absolutely not be the same design. The radius and everything would be the same, and the pockets for the rails and tabs and stuff would be the same. But it would otherwise be solid. There's no reason to do ribs in a 3D printed part, because you're doing that in injection molding for a variety of reasons. One, cost savings of material, but two, having to deal with the cooling of the injection molded part. If it's solid, then as that solid plastic cools, just toss it out the window, because it's going to be a banana. Whereas with 3D printing, it can be solid because the print is not going to be solid. The print is going to be full of its own internal scaffolding called infill. So if I was designing that piece for 3D printing, I would do it completely differently. But
well, perhaps that's your feedback.
I mean, I'll give him some suggestions, but no, I'm not going to tell him to completely redesign the whole thing from scratch. If only because there are other printing technologies out there that somebody might utilize that could do a better job of the texture. For example, the SLS nylon printing might be able to provide a fairly decent facsimile of the texture that they use. Resin printing might be able to provide a fairly decent facsimile of the texture that they use. I mean, those are the three major, consumer level types of printing. But yeah, for filament printing, it would be a whole different kind of thing. All right, done with questions?
Seems to me it wouldn't be that hard for you to go ahead and build that support in there if you wanted to print it face up. Probably only take you a couple minutes.
I would if he would send me the step files.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy. I can deal with STL files, but I don't enjoy it enough to want to go digging around and proving.
I guess the point is you could do it with just the supports and just don't remove.
Yeah, you can just do it with support. Yeah, just don't remove the support. Yeah. You're right.
I mean, if you wanted, I agreed with you on that surface. Printing face up might give you a little better grip on that particular design. I've never printed that. I've seen it in there as an option, but I've never used it. It
I've
looks
used
great face down, but face up, yeah, would probably give you a little rougher surface.
Yeah, because there's less
Yeah.
squish on the top surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've used that pattern on things in the past, and that's why I gave it a try, and that's why I know that changing the density will probably help. But yeah, like I said, I'll try these other things first.
Does that,
I'll drive on it first. Obviously, if I
Yeah.
drive on it and it's fine, I'm not going to bother changing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Does that pattern significantly add to your print time? That was my biggest
Yes.
concern. Yeah.
Yes. In all the yeses.
Yeah.
it'll like double your print time because it takes
I-
forever to do all those tiny little moves.
Yeah, I
Even on
figured
a
at
fast
least
printer.
double. Yeah.
Yeah. But on a on a fast printer, like I printed it on my XL, and you've got a Bamboo Lab, I think. So pretty much, or something similarly fast as a Bamboo Lab. Comparatively speaking, I would say that the time taken to print that piece on either of these types of machines, these faster machines, with the Hilbert curve pattern, is probably still faster than printing that same exact piece without the Hilbert curve pattern on an older machine.
On a standard machine, yeah.
So it's still going to be, it doesn't take that long. If you're printing your own pieces, you're going to hit print on, at night and come back and have a done print in the morning.
Yeah. Well, even on small pieces like chassis and stuff, it probably wouldn't. You'd still knock that thing out in 40 minutes as opposed to 20.
Yeah, for sure. And I certainly, there's no reason to use that pattern on a chassis.
But it looks cool.
Speaking of patterns, it might work just as well to do octagram spiral or grid or rectilinear or whatever. Any number of patterns might provide a decent texture if you get the density right, so that there's gaps enough for things to go in him. I just think the Hilbert curve looks cool, especially for that purpose. So
now, does it transfer that in your vertical? And what I'm thinking of is delamination. I mean, it would randomize your lines quite so much and overlap them so much. Like say the front axle uprights. Is it printing that pattern throughout that entire height of that?
Only if you set the settings to do that.
Otherwise, it's just the initial surface.
Yeah. In fact, what I had to do to make that happen on my printer, for more than just the very first bottom layer, is use a height range modifier, because I knew that just doing a 0.2 version of Hilbert curve would not provide any decent texture.
Right.
I wanted to make it at least 0.4, so it was at least 2 layers of that pattern. And the only way to do that is to use a height range modifier to force the slicer to consider that as a wholly separate part to slice. I basically had to set that first 0.4 millimeters as no top and bottom layers and Hilbert curve as the infill pattern.
Wow.
So that it didn't try to do top and bottom layers within that 0.4 millimeter height. And then, by the time it gets up to 0.6 and prints that next layer, it's technically bridging across all the little Hilbert curve patterns. Mm-hmm. But it's, it's like less than the width of the nozzle that it's bridging over. So that was not even a concern.
Yeah. I always wondered how well that pattern would work for, say, like a support. Like under the guide. I still don't get that printing as nice as I want to. It's only 1.5 millimeters off the bed. And I get it where it's not causing any problems. It's strictly a visual thing. But that's me. That kind of shit bugs me.
Yeah, even when I can do 2 materials like on my XL and do, PETG and then PLA or vice versa, you can still, it's not going to have the first layer quality. It's still going to see lines. It's just going to be way smoother than a typical 0.2 millimeter gap support surface.
Right.
It's better, but not that much better.
Right.
Anyway, I think we're done talking about 3D printing. We can talk about that more later. I have a bunch of hands to call on, so I'm done now. Mike, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Take it away.
I have a couple cars to show. Let me get everybody in here so I can see the gallery. This is one of the latest Revo slots, the Toyota Supra. And this car came out of the box on Monday at noon and won the race at 4:30.
Nice.
I put the chip in, put a piece of weight to equalize the 4.5 balance on it, and it was a great car. It really, really worked well. One of the other cars I got in that same thing was, I'm working on this thing now, but it's the Ferrari 296 by Carrera. And man, is there a lot of crap to take out of the inside.
Yeah.
It needs to be carved out a lot. And this tray for the interior weighs 10.6 grams.
That's for the Carrera?
Yeah.
Yeesh.
It's just incredible. It can see, it's part of there's no back window in it, as you can see. And part of it is the rear section of it here. And that's going to have to be, worked on too.
There's not even glass over that?
No, there's not glass over it. The real car doesn't have glass over it. It's got a flat plate of glass on the interior vertically, just behind that opening. So, but it's well done. It's the paint is really pretty good. It's just too bad they can't make these things lighter. And the chassis are just, oh my God.
How many posts are on it, Mike? Has it got 4?
It's a 4-poster, unfortunately. One of the guys that does Disca has used one and reduced it and put a 3D chassis under it, and used all of the you can see the pieces on there. It's all screwed. It's screwed in. And if you look in the center at the rear, I don't know if you can see it real well. There you go. There's a little protrusion where there's a screw that goes in to hold the interior in. What they did is they used that for the mounting point of their 3D chassis to make it a 3-point. And there's some controversy about it running afoul of the regulations that you have to use the original mounting points of the chassis, of the body on that. So they've been talking about that a little bit. From my standpoint, it's like, I don't know if it's worth it for me for doing that kind of work on it to make the chassis work differently. If I were going to do a 3D chassis, maybe I would bridge it at the rear and then put a central mounting point on, because that's a better way to control body roll on it.
Is it inline motor, Mike?
Yes, it is.
Carreras are all inline.
Yeah, Carreras are all inline. So anyway, that's one I'm working on now. I'm going to see how it compares to the Expo. Currently is my fastest Carrera that I've done. And I do standard modifications, or I get as much weight out of the top as possible. Change the rear wheels at least, if not the fronts. And then, cut out the stuff on the chassis that I deem to be extra. And then try to make the fastest car I can doing that. So my own rule set, that's the way it goes. So, and then the nice thing about it is I ordered from Great Traditions, and it was $29 because it doesn't have the case or the lights and guts and stuff like that. So that's a pretty good price for a brand new car, roughly. And I also got this sort of against my red car thing, but it's red and gold, so it's okay.
Do you have multiple of those now, or is that your first?
I have 2 of them. The other one is yellow and magenta kind of.
Okay, so you're already aware of why we used to call those the scooper birds.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. But so far, I was thinking of using both of these in a stock condition for ghost cars for when I run the stock cars, because they'll really be in the way.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. So anyway, it's they're again $29. It's
Yeah, nice.
$10 off, and I would prefer not to have the cases. So I think that's great.
I think
Especially those huge Carrera ones.
Placement rubber wing for that too.
Did he do one for the Scooter Birds? Or I know he did wings, but I don't remember if he did that one.
Who did that?
They're probably the same.
Jeremy, the rubber one.
Oh, Jeremy. I don't know.
He's not paying attention.
Sorry, what was that?
Did you do wings? Did you do TPU wings for the Carrera Superbirds?
For these?
Yeah, I have them on my website.
Oh, okay.
Would they fit the
JadedParts.com.
Would they fit the Charger Daytona also?
Yeah, they fit that one as well. I think I have them in white, red, and black, I think.
Selling like hotcakes, are they?
You know it.
I haven't ever tried painting TPU. Have you ever tried spritzing them with some paint and seeing what happens?
Yeah, it'll hold with spray paint until you squish it in your hand, but
yeah,
but for the most part, it'll hold on there.
Yeah. All right, all done, Mike?
Yeah, that's all I got for now. Oh, wait a minute. Where'd I put it? I hid it. I got these.
I was just about to ask.
Yes, I just got them Monday. Haven't had a chance to do anything. I put the bushings in, and I'm working on that right now. And they are dead flat.
Nice.
So far.
I was a little bit worried that maybe the travel, they would end up not as flat as I sent them.
No, this one at least I just opened the package a little bit before the chat, and it's dead flat. It's really
Has that got texture on the bottom? Did you do it on texture plate, Greg?
I don't know if you can see.
I can't tell. I can't.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of lines, diagonal lines. So yeah, it looks great.
I did. I mean, check all of them because I think I did a couple of them on the smooth plate, but I'm pretty sure that the ones that are gray, just so you know, the gray kind of sparkly gray is PET G.
Yep.
And the white is PLA.
Right.
Oh,
I figured that one out right away with the numbers.
Yeah. So just for Garth's reference that I of those things, but also I'm trying to think. I'd have to see them. I didn't take notes or anything, so I'd have to see them in person. I'm pretty sure I did them on the text. I did all of them on the textured plate, but it's not a very strong texture.
Oh, okay.
No.
So it didn't make that much difference, or I mean, it was just okay.
Yeah, they're all on a texture plate.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the gray ones are.
I might have done,
yeah, the PLA ones are too.
Okay, I thought so because I remember thinking to myself, well, because PLA doesn't stick as well on the textured plate, but only if the print itself has a tendency to shrink and therefore warp up and pull up off the plate because of the geometry of the print and cooling factors and all that stuff. PLA doesn't stick as well to textured, so I figured if those didn't work, then I'd print them on the smooth plate like I normally do PLA, but they worked. So
yeah, they seem to be fine.
Yeah, Greg, that's funny. I don't have any issues at all with my PLA on my Creality textured plate.
Yeah, what kind of stuff do you print?
Yeah, say what?
What kind of stuff do you print?
Chassis.
Okay, so like I just said,
and motor pods. I might have misunderstood you.
Like I just said, it depends on the geometry of the print. If cooling is going to create enough tension that the part is going to want to pull up off the plate, then it's for me, in my experience, less likely to be successful. But that's not chassis.
Right. Yeah, you're talking smaller pieces, thinner. Yeah.
Small thin pieces work. Small thin pieces work really well, big thick pieces do not.
Okay, gotcha. And mine actually makes the bottom of mine sparkle. Does yours do the same thing? It actually gives it a sparkly look to it.
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a variety of plate transfers. Like, have you ever done the ones that have carbon fiber or rainbow?
No, I haven't seen those, but I don't know if you can. Definitely can't see it with my finger in front, but I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah,
It
not
kind of
enough
gives it
resolution.
Yeah. Let's see if we got a blue one here. Figures everything I got printed in colors. There you go.
Yeah, I can't really see it. I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. It
Yeah.
looks good though.
Yeah, it adds a little sparkle.
Yeah.
That's
All right, all
you're
done,
prob-
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
what,
fine.
Jeremy?
I was just gonna say you're probably not gonna be able to pick that up on camera because it's like
Yeah.
the refraction of the light, and then once it goes through your digital camera, it's just gonna erase it.
Yeah.
Too much.
All right, moving along. What you got, Jim? The Jiminator. Jimerino.
Oh, I'm not quite right. I thought somebody else was next. I'm not quite ready.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Weber.
Okay, cool. I spoke, I guess last week or 2 weeks ago about some models, the 132nd scale models that were available online. And I said on eBay, they were $13. Well, it turns out they were $10.95, not $13. So I got a couple of them, and they're both molded in gray. This fellow apparently has picked up the mold somehow or another, and where he found a large stock. I got an XK 120. He should make a nice race car, and they have nice. Well, this one doesn't.
Yeah, John, that even comes with a driver.
Yeah, they're. I don't know if where's the guy. Yeah, they look out. They're scaled about right, and then
They're very, very, very close to 132nd scale. Yeah, very, very nice.
They were made by. They're originally made by Minicraft.
Yeah, which was the Gowland and Gowland originally.
Right.
And then Revell took it over, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess that was before Hasegawa got together with Minicraft. Something, I don't know. Anyway, this is the Ferrari. I think it's a 122 or 125.
No, it's a 340 America.
Okay. He just says it's a 1952. And so I bought two models, and he sent. He also offers an MGTD. There's the instruction sheet for that. The other side is the instruction sheet for the XK 120. You know, it's decent. It's a lot better.
There should also be a hot rod in the collection as well.
There is indeed. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah, 1932 Ford hot rod. And then,
Where did you get those, John?
On eBay. I can tell you who the guy is here.
In fact, John, if you look at the hot rod, I'm pretty sure the engine has Ardun heads.
Yeah, it does look like those. Had the short fins on the heads. I don't think they don't say Ardun on them, but they're not that well detailed. But for making a slot car model, these wire wheels are pretty nice too that came with this. I don't know if there's any way I'll be able to use those, but they look pretty good. These were called Highway Pioneers, was the series, I guess you would call it.
In fact, remember a couple of weeks ago I showed the flagmen that I had cast?
Yeah.
That's the flagman from the 340 America.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of them, yeah.
Shows
It's
him.
a great figure.
Speaking of wheels, Lenny wants to know if you got the inserts that he sent.
Not yet. No, I hadn't. I'm glad he asked. I was.
All right, hope they come soon.
Then also, I'm gravitating toward Mike's Bain red cars, and this is the Strombecker Ferrari Dino 206S. So there aren't very many models of this available in 132nd right now, not generally speaking. And they're really, really pretty cars. The dimensions seem to be really close.
Yeah, no, the Strombecker did a great job getting close to 132nd scale.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's got a little chip out of the windshield at the top, but I don't think that'll be a big problem. And I'll probably try to make a vacuum form. We have a plan in my head about doing these open top windshields like this, where they or glass, where they fit into the car like that. So I'm going to give that a shot, and that thing will disappear. I'm pretty sure. It's a complete car. It's in good condition.
Oh, and that's the brass chassis version too. That's cool.
I don't know. I think it's aluminum. Maybe my old.
Oh, aluminum. Okay, cool. It looks brass the way the light's hitting it. Yeah, sorry.
Turning yellow or something, I guess. Yeah, it's aluminum one with the. What is that? A 60? Is that a 16D motor? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yep, you're right. Yep.
And it's a very rudimentary, but I'm not going to use it anyway. I don't think so. That's pretty much all I had.
All righty, thank you, sir. Now you ready, Jim?
Yep.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to update for the stuff that I showed last week, or one of the things I showed last week. And I showed this, the break-in box.
Yep.
And so that's version 1.0. And some of the suggestions from here last week, as well as some of the other ideas that I've thought of, this is version 2.0. A lot smaller switch, works better. This is the final version. And that little pad works fine on anything from a small car to a long car. And you can. Last time I didn't show you, but there is a window in the back, and that's when you put when I put the rechargeable 9-volt in, then the USB port sticks out the back, so it'll be easy to charge and just leave the battery in it. So that's the latest thing, or not the latest thing, but that's the version of that. And somebody asked last week if I was going to sell this stuff. And I think I said no, but never say never. So
there we go.
I'm still not sure if I'm doing it, but I was working on the logo today. The latest product is using the Walmart plastic box. I think Greg saw this. And I like to keep the tires organized, but they don't fit in there. They just kind of wobble around. Sometimes they go rubber side down, which there's not enough weight on it to make a difference, but it's probably not good for it. So I built these little tire caddies, and this is version 1.0. This is the actual production caddy, and you can see there's the round hole, and the wheel boss sits on that, and there's a space for the set screw, so it lays in there flat. It works on all the wheels that I have. I don't have everything, but it just makes it a lot easier for me to work with. And what I really like is that, here's a picture of the finished product in different colors, and it helps make me more organized. So now I can go to the track with my Motown set up pretty much with the spec tires, so our MR slot car race, super grips, 28s and 30s, which are the tires that I take to that. I use G25s a lot, but I don't take them to Modesto. So it makes it very easy now. I can just pull out my the blue tire or the blue versions and throw in the G25s, which will have a white handle, and it makes it easier.
Well,
So
hold on, Jim. You mean to say that you haven't made that thing also a tire warmer at the same time?
There is a heating pad underneath it, which you don't see, but that's supposed to be a secret. Uh, so here's my latest, one of the latest. I've got a couple other products I'm working on. This is a tire gluing station, just kind of like the one you see at NSR, but it's just I like just the single piece for the gluing station itself. And then what that box is, I haven't tried it yet to see if it works, but we use cardboard boxes. We just throw the tires in there. Once you put the glue on them, the glue takes a while to set. And so what we do is we put the tires in a box and spray accelerator from an aerosol accelerator can into it and close the box. So you use a cardboard box, cut a hole in it. That works great. So I figured I'd make a fancy one. So you see the hole there on the right. You spray the aerosol accelerator in, the tires sit on those little posts, and the baffle's there so the spray doesn't actually hit the tire as it goes into the box, and then the lid flops down. I got this off Thingiverse. It's a one-piece box with the lid that closes, and then obviously I modified it for what I wanted to use it for.
Nice.
And then I've got my pit caddy, which in NorCal, all we are allowed to do is change lane stickers and roll the tires with a lint roller. So that's all that does. We don't need to carry a fluid. We don't allowed to carry fluids anymore because of some issues we've had. So that works fine for me. And so, yeah, I made a little tool to put drill bits in, and I just glue them in because they're just small drill bits to basically remount the holes in the tire inserts that I've been printing. So it's not made for any hard use, but it's I just created that in Tinkercad and drill the hole out, throw the drill bit in, and glue it in.
You have embraced the dark side, my friend.
Yeah, I haven't raced much at all, but it's been keeping me busy. So, and the printer's been running almost nonstop. So I've made about 40 of these little thingies because it takes 10 to put in the box, and so that's what I've been doing this week.
Yeah, the little tire things are very clever.
I'll have to see if I know they work, but is it something I'm going to use, or 10 minutes into it, I go, these are not worth the hassle, and just throw them away. But
Sorry, what is it about the West Coast and 3D printing? Is there like something in the water?
I think so. Yeah, it's the water has drained from the Seattle area down to Northern California.
Apparently not, because Dennis doesn't drink any of that water.
Well, Dennis he's all the way down in Southern California. Hasn't got that far yet. Coming down the coast.
Yeah. Well, he's got the printer. He just never went past that part.
The printer's the easy, to me, for the most part, the printer's the easy part. It's the CAD files and doing those that take a while and can be frustrating at times when you get something that's all done and you print it, and it takes 2 hours to print, and you realize you made a mistake. But it wasn't a printing mistake, it was the file mistake.
But you bought a printer just a few weeks ago. His was bought way before the printer that you got came out.
Yeah, I think Dennis has Fred Flintstone on it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dennis offered
an
it for
older
sale.
one. It doesn't have the whiz bang features that make yours so much easier, and that's why he gave up on his, because it doesn't have those.
Anyway,
It was a fairly high-end printer when he bought it, though.
An Ender 5, yeah, it's not. It wasn't like a bad printer.
I thought it was an Ender 3 he had.
No, he got an Ender 5, so it was like not Core XY, but Core XY looking kind of thing, but had all the issues that the older printers had to deal with, and he just didn't have the patience to deal with all those issues.
I've got one other thing real quick, so I don't see anybody else as we go into Club Corner. We have a race coming up that has been postponed. The MR slot car race has now been rebranded as the California Challenge. I'm not going to go into here why that happened. If you want to know, you can go on the Facebook groups, and Marco's put out a statement on why this happened. So it's his business. I'm not going to get into that. But this is rebranded. The race has been put off a month, and we are running a race with those cars this weekend on the original date. But the actual race itself, the 2-day race, is put off till June.
Well, I'm glad I didn't buy any plane tickets then. All right, and Don, you were holding up something. What did you want to show?
I was just going to say that John's car is a lot better shape than what mine is. But I got a good running chassis on this one.
That's a plus.
Cool.
It looks like a Dino after some vino.
Well, he lost his head, so
Mine's number
it's a
53.
pretty serious wreck. What's that?
Mine's number 53 also. So we'll have to flip a coin to see who gets to keep 53.
Yeah, well, if you make one of those vacuum form windshields you're talking about, I might be interested in that.
Oh, okay.
I got another driver's head, but I don't have the windshield.
That number belongs on a certain white Beetle, does it not?
Oh, yeah. Well, Herbie the Love Bug, that was his number, 53. Yeah.
I don't know where they picked this up. Strombecker, it's a sticker, so it'll come off pretty quick.
Alrighty, moving along, Club Corner. Raise your hand if you want to talk about racing. After Jim already did his talk about future racing. You may or may not have seen the video of EMSA racing on Bill's polycar track, the only polycar track in the club so far. And I've already kind of talked about the traction was consistent, different but consistent. I prefer consistent, so not complaining. I think I got fourth, which is pretty good considering how competitive the other guys are and how not competitive I am.
Is the polycar track new to the group, Greg?
It is, yeah. Like I said, that's the only polycar track in the group.
And it's a recent addition to the group.
The first race we had on it was the last series, so this is only the second time we raced on his track, and he changed the layout. He made the layout bigger. The layout itself is similar, but he lengthened it and then lengthened one other part of it. But
I ran on some at the weekend, and I've got a new opinion on it myself, and you've already echoed what my thoughts are, which is that it's actually not all that grippy.
It's different,
Yeah.
It reminded me a little bit of the Ninco track that I raced, when I was over visiting, but that was so long ago, and it was different cars and tires. I can't.
Yeah. I think it might be a slightly bit less grippy than Ninco.
Probably, yeah. The Ninco texture is definitely more pronounced.
Yeah. If that's the way you want to make your grip.
Yeah.
Abrasion as opposed to adhesion.
Yeah. But I'm not complaining. I mean, the tires looked okay. If we were racing on, Ninco or Polycar all the time, then we might be having to worry about tire wear. But, basically once every 2.5 to 3 months there was no significant wear at the end of the night for me to be fussed about.
Yeah, no, I don't know about. I've got no opinion on wear. I've never seen.
I mean, like you guys are saying, for like your 24 hours on Ninco, you went several hours on one pair of G25s, right?
Yeah.
So we're not racing nearly long enough for there to be any significant.
That's right.
Greg, how would you compare I watched the video of that, by the way, and how would you compare the track to, say, a Carrera track?
I compare Carrera closer to Sport, to Scalextric Sport. It's very smooth. It's hard, so you have a more hard surface,
flatness,
a slightly bumpier surface that you might get with Sport or Ninco, but the actual surface texture is fairly smooth.
Yeah.
So the softer rubber, the better on Carrera and Scalextric. The Polycar definitely has more abrasion texture, like Wayne was saying, and not as much as Ninco. So,
okay.
If you were to change to a Polycar track, or if you were to take your cars to a Polycar track, performance would be different, significantly different. That's the best way I can say it. Because the things that you've been doing to achieve good performance on your Carrera track don't necessarily apply to a track like Polycar or Ninco. And that goes back to what I said earlier in that, we had less grip on the Polycar than we did with freshly cleaned tires on Scalextric Sport or wood track. But it was consistent from the very first heat to the very last heat. Whereas since we have a no cleaning rule,
Yeah.
traction would drop off when we raced on other types of tracks.
With the smoother surfaces, you get a lot of rubber down. You get a bigger contact area.
Yeah.
With the textured tracks, you get a much smaller contact area. So you're working on the sharpness of the edges of the traction of the spikes or ripples or whatever there are in the track. You're basically gripping onto those, and those tend to bite the tire, and that's why you can get accelerated tire wear. And Ninko is notorious for that, particularly with the softer tires.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to run on F22 and N18 compounds, and they would run for 4 hours, where G25s now will run for 8 and upwards sometimes. So the grip level is the same as it used to be on the softer tires. The duration, the longevity of the tires is doubled, nominally doubled.
Yeah.
But the
Another
polycarbonate
similarity-
didn't seem to be as friendly to it seemed to need to be slid around on, quite honestly. It didn't just seem to be you can't point the car, you can't keep the rails underneath the car and be quick. You had to be drifty style to be quick.
Compared to Ninko?
Yeah, even compared to Ninko. I can't say with any certainty, but I've got a sneaking feeling that there may be less ferrous material in the rail. And
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
In polycar.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ninko is nickel-plated steel with about like a half a mil proud of the track surface. Polycar is stainless steel that's barely proud of the track surface at all. So
Well, that's only a case of ground clearance adjustment, isn't it? To get the right spacing to get.
Yeah, but stainless has a
Stainless
lot
is
lower.
still, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was evident. That was what I thought was evident. You couldn't pick up as much magnetic traction from what we nominally call a non-magnet car.
Yeah, I mean, we were racing the Thunder slots, and those are S cans, so they didn't have a ton of downforce anyways. But I would not. Yeah, it's hard to say because Scalextric is nickel-plated steel, but with the higher grip surface for soft rubber tires, so those compounded. But I mean, we're still only talking about less than 15 grams of downforce.
Yeah.
So practically nothing. But
well, the problem with having magnetic downforce is it causes it to be much more jerky. In other words, it goes until it lets go, even with low amounts of downforce.
Yeah,
so there may be a little bit better transition, and that may be why you were sliding a little bit more, and
but the difference between Ninko, which has taller rails and a more textured surface, and Polycar, which has stainless rails and a less textured surface, will be considerably more.
Yeah, quite noticeable. I couldn't run on any Ninko, obviously, but I am familiar with Ninko because it's what I run on most.
But what car were you running? A car that was unfamiliar?
Yeah, other people's cars.
Okay.
So you never know, but you ask what tires are on this, they say G25.
Yeah.
And then you know that the G25 developed for polycar track, and yes, it's got longevity. We all experience the longevity it provides. But I expected a slightly better performance in terms of just out and out grip that the tire didn't seem to be able to provide, and the rails wouldn't provide it downforce from the motor either. Because I didn't know they were stainless steel, but it makes sense. And I know that stainless steel is far less ferrous and therefore less magnetic, although not all stainlesses are non-magnetic. I'd have to experiment with it.
Yeah, I think Carrera and Polycar are more alike than Ninco and Polycar.
Probably, yeah. I have run on Carrera just a few times. Different cars, though, not the same cars. So my experience with that is that we didn't run G25 that day either. Although I am aware of an experiment where they did do G25 on Carrera for endurance racing, and the tires became a problem over time. I think they began to ball.
Yeah, they will do that.
I think they began to ball, and they were sticking to the tires and causing cars to go down a straight and then slide off in the corners.
Yeah.
And that was Carrera, like I say, G25 on Carrera. I don't think that combination works well.
It does do it on Scale X-Trick too, because I have a problem with it, but it's not quite as pronounced.
Yeah.
But the worst I've had it is on Revo slots on the Group 2s. For some reason, the Group 2's tires just ball up like crazy, and it becomes a big problem to the point where, I've been allowing people to clean their tires if we have a track call or something like that, especially if there's a problem. Because
do you do anything to the tires?
Pardon me?
Do you do anything to the tires?
As
like oil or cleaner?
No. They're straight stock tires. In fact, I just got a set of the I think the stock ones are 30, and the highest you can get is 35, and I've got some of those. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Of course, the BRM have a different shape to most slot car tires, don't they? So you pretty well have to stick within that range. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think there's an aftermarket company making compatible tires, but I think it might be silicone or urethane. It's not rubber. It's going to be silicone or urethane.
Yeah.
But yeah. Options will expand as their popularity continues.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's talk about more slot car racing with Jim, and then we'll get to Mike.
Okay. A couple months ago, we had the GT3 proxy at one of our tracks here in Northern California, and I don't see him here, so that's why I'm doing this. This is the results from last weekend's round 3 of the GT3 proxy. Do you know who won?
Recognize the winning car?
That was my question. Yes. Does anybody know who won?
I do.
And that would be
Courtney Smith.
Benetton, yeah.
Courtney won the race last weekend. And so he's not here. That's why I thought I'd throw this up, and hopefully he'll be on later and talk about his victory.
He was physically there racing?
No.
Proxy. Oh, okay. Okay. It still counts.
But somebody finally beat the 2 cars from the Czech Republic.
That's saying something.
And I called by mistake when we did the race. I called him from Czechoslovakia, and one of them messaged me and said that's not correct. I had no idea, being illiterate and that kind of thing. So Czech Republic. But they are fantastic cars. But Courtney was able to beat them.
Well, I'm not saying Courtney's a hero, but people are talking.
Go Courtney.
He beat the Czechs.
Yep. Beat the Czechs. All right, good stuff. Let's hear from Courtney later. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, let me fingers.
While Mike's still getting ready, Courtney's car had the slim can motor in it, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did any other cars do slim cans?
I don't I think one or 2 of them, but not very many.
Yeah.
Neither of the 2 Czech cars.
Come on.
Jonas' car also has the slim can FF050s.
Oh.
What RPM?
I think there's only one really useful one, and that's the one that comes out of Professor Motor.
Yeah.
The 35,000 or something. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Here you see the Revo slot grouping that we had. I I got lucky and I just threw out a invite to a friend of mine that I know from, he used to own the bike shop here. And I thought, he's expressed interest in coming over, and he did. And he brought his wife, and all four of us raced. So Joel wasn't there. He's moved house and is busy unpacking stuff. So, and as I explained before, the Toyota Supra won pretty much going away, and beat the Lister Storm. It was a really sweet car right off the bat. I basically took it out of the box, didn't adjust anything, put the chip in, put the tires on a drywall screen for a bit, ran it around the track, and that's it. Because I had other ones that I had to get ready for two people that I didn't expect to be there, but said they were showing up. And I did beat up. So it was a close race. It was between me and Chiggy. I was surprised at how well my friends did, considering there were a lot of offs, and especially at first, but they picked up the pit lane stuff right away and didn't have any trouble with that. I compensated for the differences in abilities by using larger fuel tanks and choosing the amount of clicks they had on the controllers. I changed that about 1,000 units roughly, and 2,000 on Carmen's, to compensate, and it really worked pretty well. In the second race, Greg was let's see if I got in the second race we did Group C's, of course, and it was close. Greg was moving up into second place regularly throughout the race because he had the fuel advantage, so it was effective to equalize it. It's great to know that BOP works pretty well. So it was good fun. Here you can see.
Wait, hold on. Was your Greg racing that blue and yellow car?
What's that?
Was your Greg racing that blue and yellow car?
Yes, he was.
That's awesome.
Yes. So there you see the results of the second race first. And I won by a great margin in that one. I was really pretty good. The first race, it was a little closer with Shiggy. And note how much fuel we finished with. It takes about 5 liters per lap, roughly, most of the time. And Shiggy always uses more fuel than I do. It's just a driving style difference because he tends to be on the brakes hard and then accelerate hard, and it contributes to his offs. He has more offs than I do frequently. When he's on, he's fast. But the two cars that we ran were pretty equal. I mean, they were, when I tested them earlier, they were within 100th of a second. So, it's all the driver at that point. So anyway, it was a great time. Greg expressed that he wants to bring his kids back and do it because he thinks they'd love it. And Carmen really enjoyed it too. So, which was really good. It was a good time. So, okay, that's all I got.
The only thing I couldn't tell for sure from the video was Carmen a woman or a child?
Yes,
Okay.
That's Greg's wife.
Okay. How old are their kids?
In their 20s, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bring them.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So
he was asking right away, how many cars can you run? I said, well, 6. And as you saw from the video, we didn't use the ghost cars because it would be, throwing them in too deep of water.
So Mike, is that 3 Amigos and 1 Senorita?
Yes, it is.
All right. Awesome. Anything else, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
All right. The floor is open. I don't see any other hands. As long as it's slot car related, open your mouth.
Has anybody seen the Spinning Pinion episode?
I had all the way through it, but so far it's been very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're talking about pod setup and um, theory behind why they set their pods up one way versus another way, and combining their experiences and trying to get the best of both worlds and everything. Like I said, I hadn't gotten to the end, but so far there have been things that I will try already.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting talking, and I want Garth to watch it because they made some little things about tape on the bottom and the reasoning for it.
I haven't gotten to that far yet. I kind of expected there to be something about that, but I haven't gotten that far yet.
Well, it's a damping mechanism is all it is, and it works.
I go by the Chris Walker method. Okay, tape is for packaging.
I mean, dampening is dampening. However you want to dampen,
That's not all it is.
Yeah.
It's not all it is.
It's not what it is? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said that's not all it is.
That's not all it is. Okay, what else is it?
It holds the pod still.
Yes. I agree.
Yes.
It stops the pod moving fore and aft, and it stops the pod moving left and right. And it means that the rear axle drives the pod drives the chassis. We understand it that way around. So when the pod drives the chassis, it's driving the tape, which is driving the chassis. Whereas usually it would drive the pod into the screws, and the screws would drive the chassis. And there's a subtle difference there.
Yep.
So it's very much more than just damping the motor pod movement. A lot more.
Yeah, I find it to be very effective to stop fore and aft movement. It would be nice if we had free running, screws and holes that were accurate and stuff like that in the plastic.
You're right.
But there's too much variation on it. So
the manufacturers cannot agree on the diameter of the neck of a plain shank screw.
Are you going to put, Mike? Are you going to put tape on that chassis that you showed earlier?
Not at first. I never put it on right away.
Pod. There's no reason to put tape
I think Greg got that one.
I got it. I was just giving you crap.
You should put tape on it and see if it changes things.
Yeah, if it's any faster with tape on it.
Won't be any faster, but man, it goes like hell in the mail.
That would be so funny. You know what? I went ahead and put some tape on there and I got a 10th off. I don't know what's going on.
One of the things that was in that Spinning Pinion podcast that I had thought of with Garth's 3D chassis, because he recommended tapping out the holes for the grub screws. And they mentioned that as far as putting the grub screws in when you flatten the chassis, because any tension in the chassis itself can change the flatness of the chassis. It can move it around. The only problem is that I've tried tapping like the holes in slotted chassis before, and the grub screws get a little bit too loose. So then you got to put something on them to prevent them moving around.
But we're talking about PLA. We're not talking about a regular chassis. You know what I mean? So
Right. But I'm saying I've tried tapping them out on that chassis too, and I would prefer to tap them out because it would make sense. That way you've got to.
Did you pick up on the only tap half the whole thing?
Yeah,
that's the secret, isn't it?
And then the other half of the whole,
not all of it.
Like the nylock.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go from self-tapping to tapped,
right?
Which is entirely different. It's just.
Well, I tap out I use Slotting Plus guides, and I tap out all the guides too, for that reason, because putting the screw in the guide will bind in a properly sized hole. So then you have to expand the hole if you're going to counter the expansion of the screw going in. And of course, that's that's not even because the screw doesn't go in all the way down, depending upon where you put it. So once I tapped it, it was an end of the problem. And it doesn't seem to be a problem holding in what other plastic they use for the slotting plus guides. So
it's a constant source of a requirement for attention, shall we say.
yes.
You need to be very careful about expanding the diameter of your guide stem as you poke that screw down in there.
Yeah. But like I said, once I started tapping them, it was no longer an issue at all.
I'm just surprised that Wayne, I saw your video about the UK Slot Festival. You don't have any pictures or anything to share?
Yes, I do. Shall I do that now?
Well, let's go. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, the floor is open.
Floor is
Now-
open. Yeah.
Now, don't take the
Yeah.
entire rest of the 45 minutes.
Sure you don't want anybody else to go first?
No one was
Does anybody else want to go first? Because now's your chance.
no one was struggling, so I thought no need at the moment.
Yeah.
Where shall I begin? Aha. With a portrait
I saw your. Most of us have probably seen your video with Ernie.
I know that most of you guys are subscribed, and I presumed that very much that you would have done. So this was the new release from the Scalextric stand. It was the first photograph I took because they were pretty much at the top of the stairs as I entered on the Saturday morning. I don't know who that's exciting to, but I think this is kind of predates me a little bit, the professionals. I can't remember watching it on TV too much, but there you go. That was their twin pack of capris, wood capris. Can I sweep my photos left and right?
Nope.
Nope. Why is that?
I think that was the slightly up, I guess what they considered updated body style of the Capri 2 or something like that.
Is it still a clamshell?
I didn't dive into it, quite honestly. Briefly going to stop my share and see if I can do it differently. If I open my gallery first.
Well, hold on. Let's do it this way. Is there anything specifically that anybody out here is interested in seeing more of, or interested in hearing specifically about, like, oh, I want to hear what blah 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 was showing, or I want to see the new blah blah blah. All right, Wayne, you can show whatever you want.
I only have about a dozen pictures, probably. Let's see if I share screen instead of entire screen, allow. Now I can go over to the gallery.
Did Slotted have a display there? You know.
Oh yes.
So did they show that Toyota? I'm sorry if I missed your discussion of it. But...
There we go. Look, that's working now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll get to that. It's one of the things I wouldn't miss, quite honestly. I was intrigued by this. It was a Scale Auto box set. It's the first one I've ever seen. Track 01.
What was the retail on that?
No idea. This wasn't being retailed. This was being shown on the Scale Auto stand, so there were no prices on anything there.
I don't think any of the brands really talk about price and things.
No.
Do they?
No.
I mean,
And
the vendors
if you haven't
who are
seen
selling
any of it,
things have prices, right? But
Well, I would
brands
think they
who are
would let
showing off big
them know
products-
MSRP, right? Like if it's for vendors. I don't know.
none of the
You're
stands
gonna-
were showing anything with any prices.
Yeah.
In case you hadn't seen it yet, these are some of the, I hadn't, these are some of the Scale Auto track scenery, and that building and lying down next to it, just behind it, is a couple of examples of it flat packed. You've probably seen them, but like I say, I hadn't seen them in the flesh, so I took a picture of them, and of course you can see the the Scale Auto track system layout
those,
on display there.
Those building kits, are they printed paperboard?
No, they're plastic.
Oh.
They slot together in a similar way to the wooden arrangements that we can purchase from a variety of sources, but they're plastic.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I couldn't judge the Polycar track too well. The only way I could, I mean, there were two cars and two controllers there for you to drive these two GT3 cars, I think they might have been. They might have been home set cars. But, you know, I pick a controller up and I start lifting the throttle for the corners. And of course, soon enough, I realize I don't need to do that. I can pin it all the way around.
Was this the scale auto track or the Polycar?
This was the scale auto.
Okay.
You can tell from the slightly green color of it, look.
You had said Polycar just now, so
Yeah, I did. It was an error, and I read correct. Yeah, there you go. So I still don't have a very good opinion on the grip level that's available from Scale Auto Track. I'd like to know more. I know where there is one. I'm going to go, a big one, and I'm going to go to it in June. I don't think I'll get the opportunity to drive on it, but I'll certainly talk to people who do. And in the Scale Auto glass cabinet, there were these prototypes. Not exactly certain what they all were, but maybe by looking at body shapes and some knowledge of the hypercar category, you guys might be able to fill me in, because I'm not certain what that one is.
It's a Toyota.
It's the Toyota.
Yes.
I don't think that's a Toyota.
No, it doesn't look like the scale. It doesn't look like the slotted Toyota.
Maybe a
Oh no, that's a Ferrari, I think.
Could it be a Valkyrie?
Yeah, could be.
I can't see the front. I'd have to see that.
Okay, well, I'll carry on. There's another one of
But
them.
yes, it could be.
That.
It looks like a Corvette up front.
Not the BMW, is it? I know. I can't even remember what's in the pipeline. I've got a sneaky
Is that the
feeling.
Alpine? They announced the Alpine.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. If I'm not mistaken, I might have seen these very things a year ago. Is that the Ferrari?
I think that's that weird one they're saying that's the Ferrari with a Glickenhaus front end on it. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember.
And there's a different one.
The white one you showed going left, I think backwards one. Yeah, up the other one to the right. Go one more. That one is the Toyota GR010 hybrid.
Is it?
Well, at least that's what ChatGPT says.
Nice one. So I didn't, there were no labels on these shelves, obviously. You can see that, otherwise they'd been in the picture, but there you go. There were some samples of product to expect in the pipeline down the road. That's the Valkyrie. I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one. I'm expecting a BMW. Where's the damn BMW? I'm looking for the kidneys in the grill, but I'm not seeing them.
it was
Anyhow.
supposed to be out last year, and I've asked them a couple times. They haven't responded to messages.
Yeah. Bit of a excessive delay there. One would expect that sooner. So this is lunchtime at Saturday, probably the busier day of the two. And you've got this is the retail hall, I'm going to say, for the most part. There wasn't much in this area that was on show. This was busy business time. And if I turn to my right about 45 degrees, I'm looking in a second hall, and you've just seen me looking at the Scale Auto there on the right side. You've got staff's wheels in this black gazebo on the left. Beyond them, you've got Slotted and Polycar with their track out. Beyond them, you've got Gagemaster, and Gagemaster have got an SCX Advance digital track for my samplement. In the middle there, you've got a large scale electric sport Goodwood. And over in the far right, you can see beyond and through the gazebo, there was a small HO set, AFX set. Then on that far wall, there was the drag strip, Mr. D's drag strip. And in the red gazebo on the far left wall was MR slot car. You can see the green. If you can't see, oh, there's Ernie, look, stood next to the gazebo. And then to the right of him was just a table with a virtually almost a single slot car on it. But it was very interesting, and I will show you. Ever thought of having a number plate with Scalextric written on it? I don't think I remember seeing those before. Some classics. Expensive, I thought, for an old car. Triang Scalextric these are, but £50 a piece.
They look in fairly good condition for the age, for the vintage.
They've got to be 60s cars, haven't they?
Huh.
Yeah, early 60s for sure. Yeah.
50
And
pounds, 65 bucks.
Yeah, ish. Yeah.
Yes, if you're a collector, that's fine. That's okay.
That's what
And then I was at
thinking.
another stall just browsing, and I thought I saw this at eye level, and I thought, oh gosh, I found the most expensive slot car at the show.
Well, remember, you can ask anything. It doesn't mean you're going to get your price.
Of course not.
Is that like one of the first UK Slot Festival exclusives or something?
I don't know whether it's the first or a first, but I do know a little bit more information. See that gold plaque at the front left?
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Oh, well, that is very limited.
Very limited, is it not? And then I found another one.
Yeah, but how limited is that one?
I can't tell you because I don't know. But it's clear what it was. It was a UK Slot Festival exclusive release. It would have been a limited. It might have even been a prize for a winner. But that kind of dates when they first started, or maybe dates when they started doing exclusives for the Slot Festival. And then lo and behold, I found another one. And it's even more expensive.
One of two.
Now, this one, I picked this one up, and the guy that was selling it walked around the table to talk to me. I think he thought he might have made
got a mark.
Full day's profit in one sale with me. But there you go. No. This was obviously clearly very similar to the black one. And the reason it says one of two black exclamation is because the word Marshall on the door is black on this car, but it wasn't on the cars that they released for the UK Slot Festival.
So it's like an error.
It's like a paint error or a pre-production, or it was a sample for approval and it didn't get approval or whatever, and the Marshall word got changed, the color. So it's one of those.
Yep.
But I had fun looking for the most expensive slot car at the festival, and I couldn't exceed this, although I've no doubt there was probably something there. Now, next to Mozzetti Racing, there was this Italian guy with pretty much this one car on display.
Gio.
Yeah, his name's Gio. But it's a car that functions. It's 3D printed, but it functions in a similar way to the steel chassis cars with that pan plate that sits over the top there with GM24. It's 24th scale, by the way.
Yeah.
3mm axles, pretty high quality engineering throughout. It's only in flanged bushes on the back axle. But yeah, it's the first time I think I've seen a 3D printed car of that style. Clearly, it's got two wheelbases by the movement of the front axle. And what is it for?
Classic.
There's the two pieces, look.
So that car
Again.
there says GM24. That's Giovanni Montiglio from Thunderslot. That chassis kind of looks like the Mustang chassis. That
It does. That's what it reminds me of. And
So
I
it's
think
Giovanni's invention, I guess.
so. These are. I'm told that these are vintage body shells. No one recognized them yet. 24 scale.
I was gonna say racer, but those are 1/24th, and they didn't do.
Yeah.
Maybe Lancer.
The answer's here.
Rust kit. Yeah.
So it's a modern chassis for an old body shell by the look of things. I doubt very much that the body shell's out of production because it's Lexan. Surely someone can pull modern ones, but there you go. And I didn't even particularly notice this thing until a certain friend of mine took me aside and said, "Have you seen this?" And I went, "No, it's one car on one table and just a couple of 1/24th scale Lexan bodies. It kind of means nothing to me." And I didn't get to read, but I have now read this article because I took a photograph of one page and then the other so that I could zoom in and look at it. And that doesn't say Thunderslot to me. I don't know Thunderslot as being a brand of Top Toys. And I'd never heard of Top Toys. But who was the individual that pointed me in the direction of this gentleman, this Giovanni gentleman, and the car he'd got on his table? None other than Mr. Dennis Sampson.
Dennis was there?
Dennis Sampson. He came up and tickled me. And yeah, we spent some time together, which was a privilege and fun. It was great fun we bumped into one another many times. He was there for Saturday and Sunday, like myself. In fact, I was having a bit of lunch on Sunday, sort of 1:30 in the afternoon, and Dennis just happened to choose that same time, so he ordered his food to arrive at my table, and he sat with me and we talked for a good 45 minutes while we enjoyed some lunch together.
That's awesome.
Oh, you've all seen that?
Yeah.
Some scenery I haven't seen. You might think I'm not into scenery. I'm not particularly into scenery. I don't have a track. I can't decorate it, but I like a good piece of impressive scenery, just like the rest of us. This was a stand to demonstrate precisely that, and this is a music concert, or
oh yeah,
yeah, it's actually got 3D printed speakers right there. Look,
yep.
Not that they're functional, but look at the lighting system that's inside of it. Stage, it's a stage. That's the word I'm looking for, and it's manufactured by the Racing Room, who I've never heard of. I think they've been at the show before, but it's these people that do the 3D scans of people that turn up at the show for a nominal fee. If you remember, Paul was there a couple of years ago with his wife. That was the first time I met Paul Longhurst. And if you don't know who Paul Longhurst is, he's the guy from the Somerset area that sits in front of his purple wall. Joins us on the chat from time to time.
That hasn't opened his 3D printer yet.
That's the one. So what is this? I mean, I looked at this. This is the same stand. This is a similar piece of scenery. And by the way, when I asked about these things, they come pre-decorated. This is all. I don't know if this is. I think this is thin sheet wood, or it could be stiff card. I'm not exactly certain, but yeah, it's all decorated. This is only slot together and glue it if you want to, kind of stuff. But I'm not even familiar with this building. I didn't ask too much about it, and I thought, why would we have a building with an entry? It's got to be a ticket office, has it? I don't know. I don't really know, but it's like hexagonal.
It's got one entrance on one side.
It's got roller shuttered. What's it got down this side? Windows.
I'm amazed that John hasn't chimed in with, "Oh, that's the building from blah 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 track."
Yeah. Some circuit.
I don't think it's modeled after anything specific. Sorry.
Yeah, if it was, we might have recognised it. The classic F1 fans, but like everyone else, they've got miniature retail like that. They got 3D printed toilet blocks or whatever, porta potties, and Rod's hot dogs. Just another option. And when I left the show, that's what the car park looked like.
You stayed
That's
there.
my little motor.
Hope you didn't need.
You were like, "Get the heck out of here, Wayne!" Jesus.
Oh yeah.
That was me Saturday night.
Camping in a public park.
Yeah.
Just any old piece of grass will do.
That other
So
building
I've
looks
gone
like something out of a
to-
carnival.
Sorry?
That other building looks something out of something out of a carnival.
Oh,
It
yeah,
looked like a
does,
big
yeah.
top or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like a merry-go-round or a carousel or what
It did.
Carousel.
inside.
Looks like a carousel house.
Yourself, yeah.
So now I find myself at the Slot It stand, and this is their upcoming 3 Series BMW, which is going to join initially their DTM category, but it will also have liveries down the line that make it into a rally car, and it will have a co-driver in the interior when it's a rally car. There's a shot of it from the front. And right behind and next to it, you'll see the Toyota TS010, the first hypercar from Slot It. Didn't get a very, very detailed look at this. Like I say, for the most part, Maurizio and I know one another well. We race against one another. We bump into one another quite frequently. And when I catch up with him next, I'll no doubt talk to him about the things that we didn't get to talk about at the Slot Festival. Because every time I looked over towards him, he was talking to someone else and basically busy. When I sat down with my Cornish pasty on Saturday lunchtime, I actually the cafeteria was full. But there was a table for 4 with only 3 people at it, and 2 of those people were Maurizio and Maurizio from Slot It. And because I know them and I didn't know anyone else in the room, I went and sat with them. And I basically joined in and listened to a conversation about a throttle that Maurizio had made for a tetraplegic individual. No arms, no legs. But they successfully raced in a 24-hour slot car race together by using a controller that fitted into his mouth. There you go.
Can he make you one?
I don't need a controller in my mouth.
Well,
Damn it.
you might.
Jeremy was hoping.
I'm not
Well,
gonna.
the problem if he did that, the car would just run on and on and on and on.
Well, it does anyway, because I do endurance races. So yeah, I'm all set for it.
It would never slow
That
down.
one was too easy.
48 hours.
So there you go. That's the TS010 from Slot It, which I did catch a little clip of it running when it came out for at the end of Sunday. Gauge Master was NSR didn't have a stand there, but Gauge Master had a cabinet with their stuff in it, and I'm not sure that there's anything particularly new in that shot. But there you go. This is what they had on display.
And
pictures
your
are off
screen
center.
rotation has messed things up. It's not really
Oh,
showing.
sorry guys. Let's try again. There we are.
There we go. Yep.
So did you see that? You didn't see that, no?
Nope.
Obviously, they're F1s. A Coca-Cola Porsche 997 at the back, and this looks like a
Mosler.
Mosler up the top.
I think that one's out already.
Says 12th anniversary on it. Could be a few years ago. I don't really know.
It was their first slot car, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe. It certainly
Well,
was.
no, that livery specifically, I feel like it's already out.
Yeah. And that's the same.
That livery is the anniversary of his death. Don't they do that every year?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The T28290. This is the first time I've seen one of these in person. Felt very small. It felt like it looked very small. And some modern F1s. Like I say, I'm not fully up to speed on what liveries they do and don't do, whether there's anything new there or not. That was the NSR. Oh no, there's some more there, look. All very nice stuff. Don't think I'd personally interacted with a R-Bath until now. And I didn't get to drive any of this because it was just locked in the cabinet all day. And then there were these. I went back over to Scale Auto. And these were subject of much discussion about a year ago now, probably. But it looks like we've finally finished one or two of them. If you
Are
notice,
those-
they were all still on the sponge tires that they were initially showed on, which were too small and too grippy. But now, if you look here, one of these has got some full-size wheels and tires.
those look silly.
Is right. I agree, Greg.
Aren't those 124?
Yeah,
Those wheels look ridiculous.
yeah. It looks like they might take a bit of work to get them to run as well as they did when they ran like this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Scale Auto 963, is that right?
Yeah, that's the 24 scale one.
That's the 24 scale one. That's correct. That's why I've got a picture of it, because that's what it's going to look like underneath. If I'm not mistaken, I think these are the cars that they recently raced on the Nyland track in the back of Electric Dreams, the new big one.
Yep.
They look quite technical, but again, I couldn't get my hands on it to manipulate it or experience it. But yeah, I think we've discussed it a little bit before, but this was the first time I've seen one.
That's the HO.
That's the AFX HO. Why did I take a photograph of it? Because it's just a wonderful
Catalunya.
scene.
It's Catalunya.
Yeah, unimportant. I just love the fact that Family Day brings these events to hand. Three young kids between the age of 7 and 11 and a dad. And these three young kids weren't all from the same family. Just having a great time with slot cars. And Sunday was Family Day. It's promoted a bit more as not necessarily the hardcore collector or the hardcore slot car racer. It's just come along and learn about slot cars. And there were so many scenes like this, and I thought it's just remiss of me not to get a picture that actually shows one of the things that this UK Slot Festival successfully does.
You're such a softie.
Oh my God.
I'm not specifically into figures, but
that was a Tyra special.
Yeah, that was a Tara special. That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Is the video playing properly? Yeah, it looks like it
Yes.
might be.
Pretty good, actually.
Is that the slotted?
That's the Toyota TS01 just doing a lap or two around the polycar track. And I think that might be everything. That's a screen grab I took.
Wayne, does Racer Sideways have any presence at this?
No, I don't think I can't remember. Other than the fact that some of the retailers had got some for sale.
All right.
No.
Wayne, you missed the kid racing though.
What kid?
In Miami, kid racing HO. You recognize the kid?
Getting some racing in before the Miami Grand Prix. Oh, that's it. Okay. Kimi
Antonelli racing slot cars at the Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything about it.
How old is he? He looked like he was 13
18.
or 14.
He's 18.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Youngest Formula One driver to make a pole.
That's correct.
But Wayne, you missed the most important car of the whole festival, in my opinion.
Go ahead. I may have done.
The MR slot car IndyCar.
Ah, the MR slot car IndyCar. Well, there is a story connected to that. It wasn't on display.
I've seen pictures of it on display.
It wasn't on display. But I did talk to Ernie. You've seen my video, I presume.
I've seen the pictures of it on display.
Yeah. It got broken, I'm afraid.
You broke it?
You broke it?
I've got no idea.
So it was on display before Wayne got there, and then it was no longer on display because somebody had broken it.
Well, when I was introduced to Ernie by Dennis, who I was, where I kind of how Dennis knew me, because Dennis knows most people. Quite honestly, he knows more people than I do, and he's at the UK festival. Anyway, there you go. Different group. I kind of asked for permission to make my interview with Ernie, but I promised him I wouldn't do it during Saturday morning. I would do it Sunday, and I would probably do it in the afternoon, knowing how the nature of the busyness of the show goes. And so when when I oversaw Ernie talking with Dennis about the cars, I said, I'm going to leave you gentlemen because I quite honestly don't want to know about this until I've got my video camera running. And I want the questions that I ask to be fresh when they're fresh and relevant because it's the first time I've heard it. So I'm going to walk off, and then got back around to make my interview with Ernie on Sunday. And by that time, he couldn't show it to me. I asked him about it when we'd completed the video, and he did fetch it. But he just explained that he didn't want to show it because someone had dropped it and it had got a broken wing and one thing and another. So he just decided it's not worth showing in that condition. So it was withdrawn. I can't tell you much about it. He just showed me the fact that it was broken. It was screwed to a plinth with its body shell on. So I got to see very little about its technical aspects.
It looked very much like it had the motor pod out of the Corvette, the C1 Corvette and that series, the metal chassis series.
Yeah, it's a slim motor pod. It looks like it's going to be a universal component for most of his cars.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, all the steel chassis cars, and most of the cars that he's got are going that way. I think the way that the what are they? The McLaren and the what's the Aston Martin that's been out since, the way that those were plastic molded, etc., etc. I think he's kind of moving away from that. I think he's got, that traditional technique from building slot cars, and he's moving towards running the steel chassis cars. I did ask him a specific question because I know he's got a large polycar track in the basement over in Toronto. How do the steel chassis cars go on plastic tracks? Because we're pretty sure that they're going to run reasonably well on wood because that's where steel chassis generally live. And he said, well, it's the same as many other classes of slot car racing. If you run them against one another, they're absolutely fine, perfectly raceable. You're not necessarily going to have the quickest car in the club with one of these. None of these cars are aimed at being specific, quick cars. They're all scale models that run on track, basically. Looking at the Corvette, looking at the Mercedes, looking at the Ferrari, and all the rest of that. And it's the same as most brands and most categories of cars. You run them against themselves, and they're fine. Can't blame anyone for producing that kind of slot car. So that was the answer I got for that. I had a great weekend. It's always a great weekend. Sorry?
They've got little skinny tires on them, which are more period correct. So it's not designed, like you said, it's not designed to run against an NSR Corvette C8.
It's not going to be your fastest slot car, no.
But it should run fine.
Wayne, I think I noticed in your interview with Ernie, something on the table that nobody talked about. There were a couple of boxes or images that were stood up on props or something of appeared to me to be Bizzarini A3C or Iso Revolta A3C, whoever you want to call it. It was on the table. They were on the
What I can remember in terms of those, what were they, like postcard sized pictures, was that they were future liveries. But if that's a car,
that's a
different... I know a Bizzarini is a car. It's an Italian car from the 60s, is it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice it. So now you've mentioned it, I'm going to go back and watch my own video.
I remember seeing the card. It was there.
Yeah, and that sort of doesn't. I don't think it doesn't fit with the other. The Ferrari 250 SW, the 250 GT SWB, and the Corvette, and what was
Mercedes.
The other one? It doesn't fit with those really. It's a little two or 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Things were moving fast at that time, and so anyway, there's a resin body of this is the Luzo version. This is the street version of that same car. resin print. Anyway, they're pretty distinctive, and I'm pretty sure that's what that was. If you check it.
I'm gonna go and have another look. As you know, you may remember, Ernie actually joined us in the chat once.
Yeah.
And I had been introduced as Wayne from the Zoom chat, and of course Ernie knew from having been in the Zoom chat what we were. And so I effectively invited him to come join us again one day soon, where he would get, no doubt, the opportunity to show off the same things he was showing off at the festival. And if he does do that, then Johnny will be able to pose your question to the man directly.
That would be cool. It would be cool if he were also producing. That may be a hint at something else he's going to produce.
It might be.
You know, cars from slightly later era.
I wanted to be quite gentle. He doesn't know me all that way. He doesn't know me from Adam at this point in time.
Right.
I've told him I've got 800 subscribers. It's not gonna, you're not gonna, break the internet with anything that I make. But he had other people with cameras in his face, and they're a bit more excitable than I am. And at the end of the interview, he said, "Well, I enjoyed that. That was nice. That was pleasant. That was one of the better ones I've done." And I thought, "Oh, thank you very much." And he wanted me to actually share the video with him.
I thought
He said, will you find me? Will you email me? Will you make sure I find a link to that? So I said, yeah, it'll be on the internet probably tomorrow. And, I've got your Facebook group. I couldn't find a website for the brand. Never mind an email address.
Right.
But I've got him on Facebook, so I've sent him a link and
For MR Slot Car?
MR Slot Car, yeah.
I think it's mrslotcar.ca.
Okay.
I think.
Everywhere I found myself going was Australia for the Mr. Slot Car. I knew I didn't need to look long and hard because I knew he'd got a presence on Facebook, so I just quit to where I knew I would find him.
Yeah, it's probably the CA that threw you off. Instead of .com, it's .ca.
Yeah, mrslotcar.ca.
Yeah, and there's a contact on that. So yeah, there is over there. Look. So yeah, I met a lot of people. I met people that I raced against 20 years ago when I lived in Derby and raced HO. I met, I meet those on a relatively regular basis, but I meet internationals. We had it wasn't all that long ago, was it? Earlier this year when I had a teammate for a race at Rockingham called Bert, and he came from Belgium to race, and he brought a car, and he didn't have a teammate. And he put himself on slot forum, and I stood up and said, "I'll join you." And he took the bother to drive all the way over from Belgium to come to the slot festival. So I bumped into a driver that I'm going to go and race again. I'm going to go to his place and race against him in the Paul Ricard 24 next month. I met all sorts of people. People I knew, some people I was introduced to. Darren, you may remember Darren. He once raced with me in an oxygen race, and then he came in the chat to talk to us about it. He comes from right down the south coast of Britain, so bumped into him again. All sorts of people. That's most of what the show was about for me, because I'm not there to spend a lot of money. I don't need to buy a lot of slot cars. I've got enough, thank you very much. And so yeah, it's something different for me to what it is for some people, and then it's different for other people. So I like to look at the new stuff, and I like to make a couple of little gentle videos. And I went round it the first year just videoing everything because everything was brand new and exciting. But this time it's a different experience. Spent a couple of hours talking with John Underwood, who joins us in the chat, about regulations and about the Polycar Formula One cars that have been racing on Saturday. And had a go driving one of his cars around the big Polycar track on the Sunday, and it's just great social.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to take up all the remaining time, and there is about 6 minutes left, I think. So someone else, please.
Wayne's the new host. Yeah. Anybody else want to fill the time? We don't have to fill the time.
Good job with that interview, I think.
Yeah, Wayne, you did a good job on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to hear something positive for a change.
We tease you because we like you. Stop it.
You had 2 viewers this time.
Yeah. I was one of them.
I was the other. That's it.
That's it.
Apparently.
No, I was there too.
Oh, okay, 3 or 4.
Oh, I've got news for Mike.
Yes.
No one ever made a slot car of your first car.
Renault Dauphine?
Renault Dauphine. I was walking around the place asking for Renault Dauphines, and everybody said, you need the Airfix kit.
Is that still available?
Well, John showed you one recently, didn't he? Last week he showed you pictures.
Yeah,
of
but
it.
I haven't
Yeah,
been able to
you,
find
you
it.
can get like old, but they haven't repopped it yet. I'm sure that the molds are probably covered in rust or something, but
Probably not being manufactured, but you could
not
probably
being
find.
manufactured. But you can get mint in bag or mint in box kits for sure. I know, Mike. I will try this fall at our local model show and see. What
Well,
I can-
I've been trying to Google it. I found a 56 Ford, but I didn't find the 57 in 32nd scale yet. So,
What about the one I showed you? Revell produced one.
well, I didn't find are you sure it was a 57, not a 56?
I think it says it on the box. Yeah, 57.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll get
There
it if you like.
was that I can find them in 24 scale all day long, but in 32nd scale it was difficult.
Boy, is this going to be expensive, my friend.
You know,
Don't worry, it's
I
Canadian.
the second stall holder that I asked didn't know the answer to the question. And literally, there are bystanders who are also browsing who are so expertise that they opened a conversation struck up just between the 3 of us stood in front of the stall about the fact that they did the Gaudi 9 at the 8, the Renault 8 after came after it. They did do that, and it was like suddenly I found myself stood with a group of individuals I'd never met who we were just discussing cars like that, and the fact that somebody should do a Dauphine and la la la.
Yeah, isn't that neat when that happens?
Absolutely, it's brilliant. Talking about just those figurines that Tara manufactures, do you know every one of those is a 3D print? I actually asked her, does she do the silicone molding like you do? Does she get one and then produce lots from it? And she says, no, I buy each individual one. Obviously, I get a preferential rate from the manufacturer, but every one of those is its own resin print.
Wow.
That must take a wee bit of time, though, doesn't it?
To print?
No. If you
No?
put 20 of them on the plate, it's the same as printing one with resin.
Oh, that's a great. Oh, okay, I didn't
Because
realize.
it pulls them up through. Yeah. So.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. You got it. Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, resin's pretty quick, relatively. All right, on that note, we're going to end the live stream. So until next week, everybody wave bye. Clicking the end button now. Bye-bye. And YouTube says stream finished. All right.